slide your mat right up against the wall and then just grab a towel and fold it into a nice tight bundle between your legs here, or if you have a soft ball, we can use that too. So we're just going to lie down onto your back, bring the legs into a right angle, knees pretty much coming down into the pelvis, and my shin bones making a nice flat line parallel to the floor. So I've just got the ball or the towel not up into between the knees, but a bit lower down in between the thigh bones. So we're going to do a little bit of squeezing. Sometimes if you squeeze too hard, it might end up feeling like it's irritating on the pubic symphysis, on that pubic bone at the front. If that's happening, then you need to really be gentle. Don't do too much of a squeeze, but also work on the timing. So we might just do that now here. We'll just take a few breaths first. Arms just wherever they're comfortable. They could be down beside you or out to the side. And we're just inhaling and exhaling. And we could just think about filling up from the front to the back. So breathing into the sternum and the upper back. And on the out breath through the mouth, just lengthening, nice long exhale. And then inhaling maybe into the low back and the belly. And breathing out. And you might even try and expand front to back through the whole line now. So the whole front body and the back of the body on the inhale. And then exhaling. We're going to bring your attention to the side body and do the same thing. So this time filling up through the hips, the waist, the rib cage, the lungs, or sideways expansion, and then exhaling, everything's shrinking back into that midline. We'll do that one more time. So sideways breathing, or east to west, and exhaling. The final breath we're going to focus is top to bottom, up to the crown of the head and down to the base of the pelvis. The spine's lengthening, and on the exhale, just there's a little kind of recoil that happens and the spine shrinks from end to end. And then I want you to just breathe into all 6 directions. Inhale, front, back, side, side, top to bottom. On the exhale, you're going to do a SH, shh. Keep going till you have no air left, and then maybe even a little more. That's all we need for core. Inhale, breathing into your 6 sides. This time it's like a snake, a hissing S. Keep going with that nice pointed, angry, hissing S. You might even spit a little bit until there's nothing left, and then maybe there's more. Even when you think you're empty, keep hissing. It takes you into a little bit of core connection. One more breath. Inhale to your 6 sides. This time your sound is like you're fogging a mirror with an HA. It's a really lovely, gentle sound. Keep going till there's nothing left. Sometimes that one takes the tension away if you're someone who's overworking. It'll give you the subtlety that we want. Inhale to your 6 sides. Pick your favorite sound. There's no right and wrong. You can try a different one each time you do the video. Exhaling. All 6 sides coming into your center. And then inhale, breath. Now we're just exhaling through the mouth with a, but I want you to have the intention of centering those 6 sides. So inhale to prepare. And as you exhale through the mouth, feeling that centering, and then adding a little hug with the legs into the ball, squeezing, and inhale to release. So we're going to do about 10 of these. You go with your breath. So it's an exhale, feel the beginnings of the breath, and then continue the movement. And then inhale, you release and expand through your sides. So when we squeeze here, very rare that we have perfect balance. We usually have a stronger leg, a lead leg, and we all usually need to be a little bit focused on the balance. So you don't need to have a big squeeze. Maybe it's 20% of your capacities, but does it feel like there's work happening on both legs? And then inhaling to release. So as you keep going, you want to feel almost like a magnetizing energy between the legs into the ball rather than a big squeeze. So think of activating the inner leg as opposed to maybe like a really strong strengthening feeling. And we do the last few, and maybe now you could even you might feel fatigue, so maybe even back off a little bit more. It doesn't take much, but we want to have symmetry, and that's really important for where we go next. So we're going to bring the fingertips down to the pubic bone, and then before, when we were seated, I was just saying if you slide out to the side, you find a soft patch just off the bone. There's your rami, and we're just going to tip the rami towards your navel and then drop it down to the floor. So we've got a little rocking action through the pelvis, a little bit like your seated rocking. And now we're doing it lying on the back, so you get the lovely feedback of the floor. If you imagine that your pelvis was filled this way, so we've got the pelvic bowl that way now, filled to the brim with nice warm water, and as you tip, you're going to flood the warm water down into the belly, into the low back. Let the low back melt into the floor, and my tail's now just peeling off a little bit and then back down. And we'll just do that a couple more times, just releasing that low back. You might notice the feet pressing into the wall. And we've got that gentle hug into the ball, and then coming back, and we'll just do it one more time. So my neutral position is when I get the tail down, a little bit of space in the back, and then I get a flat back when I'm flooding that warm water in, and then coming back. And this time we're going to give a neutral position. Actually, let's do a couple more and we'll think about the rib cage. So hands onto the ribs. This time when I go into tipping the bowl of the pelvis and flooding that back, I'm going to let the ribs drop down. And you may feel a bit of tightness or a bit of stretch somewhere through the back of those ribs. This time when I return the tail, just notice often there's a response of the ribs to come up. I'm not going to let that happen. So it might feel a little trickier to get your tail back down. Keep the ribs heavy. As you return the pelvis, leave the ribs behind. And don't give yourself a hard time if that's really tricky. That's super tricky, particularly after having a baby. So we be very kind of accepting and interested, and just noticing how far you can get. You might not be able to get your tail all the way back down, and over time it's just going to get easier. And then we're going to just come to the best neutral you can, so the ribs down as much as possible and the tail down, and we're just going to give that hug to the ball or the towel and send some pressure into your feet. So the feet are pressing into the wall, the whole foot, the inner, the outer, the top, the bottom of the foot, all pressing into the wall, and we're keeping the squeeze here. And then we're going to add to that a little pull of the heels down to the floor. So there's three things. There's a hug into the towel or the ball, the press of the feet, and then you're trying to pull those feet downward towards the skirting boards. We're going to maintain that. So back it all off a little. If you go too hard, too quick, you'll find that you can't sustain it. So find a tension or a resistance or an activation that you can sustain around 10-20% maybe of your capacity there. And then we're going to add a rock, tipping the bowl and return. And again, tipping the bowl and returning back. Now just keep checking. Have I still got the legs? Are they even? Have I still got the feet? And have I still got the heels pulling down? Whoop. We want to maintain all three things as you tip. And this is not having to be perfect, but noticing the challenge. Remember we all have a strong leg, a lead leg. I'm now starting to lift up a little bit. So we want to listen to your body. As I start to lift my tail up, I'm tipping the pelvis, and I keep tipping. It'll have to tip a little bit more, like I'm trying to get another little droplet out. Keeping the legs. So we're going to do about 8 more of these, just gradually going higher. If it feels uncomfortable somewhere, or there's a sense of not feeling, really nourished by the movement, then that's your just before that's going to be where you go to. So especially after having gone through birth, this might be enough, just a small lift and back again. Over time, you'll know when your back will start to feel loose, and it'll feel appropriate to just peel up a little higher each time. Still maintaining the feet, the heels, and the inner leg. And I haven't really given you a breath, so the optimal breath for this would be the out breath to roll you up. Pause at the top and take a breath in. Out breath to roll down. And pause at the bottom. Now, if we've got all of that happening with the legs, you're activating the inner leg, the back of the leg, and up into the glutes. So we're really building the strength of the legs, feeding into the pelvis, the myofascial deep front line through the inner leg, up into the pelvic floor and into the abdominals. It's a really powerful exercise. Go gently. You may find after 3 that's enough for you today. I'm just going to do this one and one more, so I'm going to go a little higher. So if we're going into a higher curl, we're really using those feet and legs. And one more. Out breath to roll you up. In breath at the top. Out breath to roll down. And an in breath at the bottom. So after that, you might like to take the ball out, bring the soles of the feet together and just rest.